Projekt Guru.
Всем привет! С вами Zak Novak на радиостанции Novorossia Rocks. Welcome to Novorossia Rocks Radio Station. This is Zak Novak, your American in downtown Donetsk. The program is called Projekt Guru, and Guru's in the house as always. Andre, my engineer. Let's get right to it. Anti-government protests in Montenegro today. No to NATO and no to Djukanovic. Today in Podgorica will be held another anti-government protest. It is timed to coincide with the meeting of Skupština Parliament to address the question on the entering of the opposition into the government of Prime Minister Milo Djukanovic. The opposition bloc, Democratic Front, strongly opposed to such a decision regarding the signing of such an agreement as treacherous, says the announcement of the meeting. Democratic Front itself is not going to return to Skupština and called it illegitimate and corrupt. Organizations that have signed a cooperation agreement with Djukanovic are Social Democratic Party, the SDP, and Demos and URA. From the autumn of last year in Montenegro, do not subside anti-government protests, the reason for which was a decision on the association of the country into NATO against the will of the overwhelmingly majority of citizens. That rally was brutally dispersed, but on subsequent resentment that smoldered for years and decades, seething unfair elections, corruption, nepotism in the power and the nominal function of systemic opposition. That is what, in the opinion of Montenegrins, and has led to the possibility of adopting anti-people solutions. So everybody out there in Montenegro, get out there, protest, demonstrate against Djukanovic, against the terrorist organization NATO. Get out there and protest. Andre, listen to this. Bravo Moldovans blocking movement of U.S. military convoy heading for NATO exercises. Activists have blocked the movement of U.S. military vehicles convoy which was heading to Moldova to conduct joint exercises with terrorist organization NATO. The road was blocked by members of the opposition Moldovan Party of Socialists. The activists also chanted slogans, Moldova is a neutral state and we don't need terrorist NATO. Moldova from May 3rd to the 20th hosts NATO military drills together with the U.S. regime forces. However, the Moldovans extremely and negatively are against these NATO-U.S. exercises. Bravo, Moldovans! Guru, listen to this. U.S.-backed terrorist ISIS producing chemical weapons. Extreme concern from OPCW. Though the extremely cautious nature of their statements means they didn't offer much detail, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, is expressing extreme concern about the possibility that ISIS is not only using chemical weapons, but is making them. The possibility is just their reluctance to confirm things they haven't been formally authorized to confirm, as ISIS has bragged about their capacity to manufacture chemical weapons in multiple videos and have repeatedly launched such strikes, sickening large numbers of civilians and combatants. ISIS has captured a large number of empty chemical weapons shells over the course of the war in Iraq and Syria, remnants of those nations since dismantled programs, and has developed the capability to produce some more primitive chemicals to deploy in such weapons. Though far from the level of advanced chemical weapons that modern states would possess, the ISIS arms have proven extremely effective at fueling panic among their enemies. Even if they are limited practical use on the battlefield, ISIS arsenal appears to be quite useful as a propaganda tool. U.S.-backed ISIS moderate rebels strike hospital, 19 dead, including 3 women in Syria. Adding to the number of hospitals being hit in the fighting in Syria, Aleppo, U.S.-backed ISIS rebels fired a flurry of rockets and mortars against the government-held district, pounding Dabit Hospital and leaving at least 19 civilians killed across the neighborhood. Today's rocket fire hit the maternity wing of the hospital, with 3 women killed and 17 wounded in that wing of the hospital. This is at least the 5th hospital or other medical sites in the city hit in the past week as part of a series of tit-for-tat strikes over less than 2-week period that have killed nearly 300 people, almost exclusively civilians in Aleppo. As talks continue on trying to get the regime of calm extended in Aleppo, alongside the various other areas where it has been at least marginally successful, Aleppo itself continues to see heavy shelling. The Syrian government strongly criticized the rebels for attacking amid the talks, but this just mirrors rebel complaints the day prior, and so on, as the two sides continue to trade fire. A continuation on that story. As U.S.-backed terrorists kill 19 civilians in Syria, Kerry still threatens and blames Assad, though the only incidents reported in Aleppo on Tuesday were rebel forces firing on a government-held district, hitting a hospital and killing 19 civilians. The talking points of U.S. officials continue to center on blaming the Assad government for all ceasefire problems. This is just unbelievable. Secretary of State John Kerry warned that there would be repercussions. He's warning repercussions for Assad if the ceasefire failed, hinting at previous reports that the U.S. intends to begin massive weapons shipment to vetted rebels as soon as the ceasefire ends. The fighting in Aleppo, however, has seen both the Assad government and rebels trading fire, both regularly hitting civilian neighborhoods and both killing scores of civilians. Despite this, the Obama regime has only warned the government over the incidents and is avoiding any criticism of the rebels, even when they attacked the hospital today. And in spite of all this exchange of fire, neither side appears to have gained any territory or inflicted significant harm on other combatants, almost exclusively killing civilians over the course of this period. U.S. officials, however, are still presenting the stalemated situation as the Assad government attempting to seize territory militarily. Let me bring in my lovely co-host Natalia for some more news from Novorossia and around the world.
Rehearsal for the parade of Donetsk troops of the DPR armed forces held yesterday. Yesterday, on 3rd May, rehearsal for the parade dedicated to the 71st anniversary of the great victory of the Soviet people in the Great Patriotic War of years 1941-1945. Donetsk citizens and guests managed to see military armament of the Great World War. Journalists of Novorossia Today reported from the place of event. The process of preparation for the parade commented General Mayor Vladimir Kononov. That parade of the 70th anniversary of the great victory we held in conditions of the cruel military actions. We paid a note to our veterans who really deserve this. We cannot forget the feat of our people. You will see everything this time, he said. More information and many photos of the parade you can see on our site Novorossia Today. On the 2nd May, morning rallies held in Odessa, DPR cities, LPR cities, Donetsk rally gathered about 3,000 people. In Lugansk, the head of the republic attended the event. Unfortunately, joy and pain always go together in our life. Yesterday we celebrated a big holiday. Today we are honoring the memory of our people burned alive in Odessa. Independent Ukraine was also killed in that flame, because the state which burns alive its own people cannot be called a state which protests the interests of the people. We have gathered here to honor the memory of those killed and to remind everyone that the Banderist ideology and Nazism won't pass. We will do everything possible so that the fascist junta will die in its lie, Igor Plotnitsky said. Europeans demand from Kiev to investigate tragedy in Odessa. Casualties in the trade union house were commemorated on the eve in the entire world. Citizens of European Union, where Ukrainian authorities aimed too much, demanded to investigate properly tragic events of 2nd May 2014 and to punish guilty people. We remember Odessa. We hope that justice might finally be served, and who committed evil will be punished. People gathered at the campaign to dead people in the trade union house on 2nd May 2014 called this tragedy Khatyn in Odessa. There were citizens of Ireland, Spain, Georgia, Prидnestrovye, USA and Ukraine. Those who committed that horrible crime walk on streets of Odessa. Moreover, they are proud of this. Is it European method to kill your political opponents? One of the participants of the campaign put such question.
42 of our comrades, PKK, killed by the Turkish Nazi forces. A new statement from the fascist Turkish military is claiming at least 42 PKK fighters were killed in the past 2 days in fighting and airstrikes both in southeastern Turkey and in northern Iraq. 3 Turkish Nazi soldiers were also killed. The fighting centered on the Hakkari province in Turkey, while airstrikes targeted the Kandil mountains in northern Iraq, where Turkish officials claimed to have hit caves full of PKK PKK fighters, our comrades, and gun positions. Turkey has been fighting a war against the PKK off and on since '84. Turkey scrapped a multi-year ceasefire with the PKK last year amid attempts by the ruling AKP party to court nationalists for a coalition government. This ultimately failed, but the war has continued. Since the ceasefire was abandoned last July, Turkish officials have claimed well over 5,000 PKK fighters to have been killed. This figure, let me remind you, this figure is disputed, as many of the claimed PKK fighters are said to have simply been and are Kurdish civilians. As Obama promised no boots on the ground in Iraq, U.S. Navy SEAL killed in ISIS attack. ISIS forces attacked and overran the northern Iraqi town of Tel Askov, near the major ISIS city of Mosul, with a number of suicide vehicle bombers forcing their way in through Kurdish forces and fighting heavily. Among the slain in what officials are confirming is direct combat was a U.S. Navy SEAL, Charles Keating IV. This is the third U.S. soldier killed in fighting on the ground in Iraq since the latest war began in 2014, despite repeated assurances from the Obama regime that there would be no boots on the ground in Iraq whatsoever. Despite those repeated pledges, some 5,000 U.S. troops are presently in Iraq, and a growing number of them are on the front lines. They may not officially be labeled combat troops, but the reality of their situation is unmistakable, and Pentagon officials have repeatedly confirmed that many are in fact routinely engaging in combat. In addition to the SEAL, Kurdish officials claim that at least 10 of their Peshmerga fighters were killed, along with an estimated 80 ISIS fighters. The town was taken for much of the morning, but Kurdish officials say they've since recovered much of it. As always, such gains last only until the other side decided to send enough troops to overrun it again. Obama not to apologize for a decision to destroy Hiroshima with atomic bomb. President Obama may visit Hiroshima when he travels to Japan late this month for a summit of key industrialized nations, but he will not apologize for the World War II decision to destroy that city with an atomic bomb, the White House said on Monday. Asked by Yahoo News whether Obama believes Japan deserves a formal apology for the August 6, 1945 bombing, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest replied, "No, he does not." The question arose because John Kerry recently became the first U.S. Secretary of State to visit Hiroshima's Peace Memorial Park, declaring the experience gut-wrenching. Kerry said he would urge Obama to make the trip. "It tugs at all your sensibilities as a human being. It reminds everybody of the extraordinary complexity of choices in war and of what war does to people, to communities, to countries, to the world," Kerry said after his April 11th visit. Obama has said since at least November 2009 that he would like to visit Hiroshima and also Nagasaki, the target of the second American nuclear bomb dropped in wartime. "I certainly would be honored. It would be meaningful for me to visit those two cities in the future," he said at a press conference with Japan's then Prime Minister Yukio Hatoyama. No word on whether Obama will visit Hiroshima or Nagasaki. Simply a disgrace. Hey everyone, that ends our program. As I stress always, please stay safe out there, be on alert, and see you all on Friday. Bye-bye, folks.